Feel that. Oh, choo-choo. Motoring. Choo-choo-choo-choo. I hate that sound. All right. What is it? 4:30 local. We are working our way back to the interstate here real quick. Hold on a second. What's up there? Big bump, big bump. There we go. Big bump. Big bump, heavy load. All right, get you back out. Which way am I turning up here? North, going back to the west. Cool. I always let trucks out. Ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. Always let trucks out. Always flash them. And then these people inevitably run the light. Oh, he didn't that time. That was the first. Yeah, I flash the lights going the other way. People wait in line. And when you're in a big ass truck, you can't just pull out anytime you feel like it. This way, can't go that way. Get back on the highway here. Ooh, I can feel that in the back. I got 2,000-pound pallet. Here we go. Around the corner. Yeah, I can feel that. Ooh, all right. Get back on the highway. I had my big glorious load this morning. 250 miles to pick it up, and I get there and I'm looking at these two boxes. I couldn't carry one of those boxes if you cut it in half, let alone the two boxes. So I had my hated dry run. Much maligned dry run. Hold on. Get back up to speed. Got to go west 30 Van Bart and working. Not an exit left. Hold on here. West Vert, right lane. Crap, I got to get over. And nobody wants to be in the middle of that. Right. Waiting on a van here. Okay, one more minivan. Pass me. Come on, minivan. Come on, Mr. Mini. Get by me. Thank you. All right. Woo, I can feel that weight back there. 2,000 pounds. Single pilot. All right, this morning I had a 250-mile run to pick up a load. And I arrived at the shipper, and I'm supposed to pick up two pallets. It said 1,200 pounds apiece, no dimensions provided. I'm standing here looking at what they want me to pick up, and I couldn't have fit one half of one of those boxes in here. I mean, it wasn't even close. So I got to call dispatch and go, okay, homie cheese, what's the plan here? And they go, well, what are the dimensions? I said, way too big for my van. And on my paperwork, you didn't even provide me with dimensions. It just said the weight. That's the first time it's ever happened. So going forward, I'm going to have to challenge that if it's blank. It just says 2 at 1200 or 2 or whatever. So I sat around in this little non-town of the name I've already forgotten. Mount Vernon, that's it. And I sat around for about an hour, washed my van, got it cleaned up, sat in the parking lot in the shade tree, got a call, and I made a run about 60 miles north to Upper Sandusky. They gave me a single 2,000-pound pallet full of car parts, and it's going to Mooresville, Indiana, a little less than 200 miles. It's just a direct shot. I'll be there like 8 o'clock tonight, and then I'll be done for the day. But at least I'll still be in a core area for whatever tomorrow brings. And it's cooled off enough that I could sleep without using my air conditioner, which is going to make life easy tonight. What is it now? So I went from driving around completely empty for the last few days to driving around loaded. 2,000 pounds of fun. Single pallet, bunch of little plastic tubs wrapped up, and it says car parts. So couldn't tell you. But the dry run happened today, and it's only the second one I've had. You show up and you look at the load and go, yeah, no. Not either. You can't even attempt to justify that. So lesson learned, if you get dispatched and it tells you you're carrying X amount of weight and it doesn't actually provide the dimensions, you need to press to get the dimensions on the load, because that's an awful lot of driving for nothing. And they paid me $150 for the dead load. Hey, what's going on there, everybody? Yeah, you're back. When able. Back when able. Cool. How you guys doing? Yeah, I was just talking earlier. I got a dry run, big reposition, about 200, a little over 200 miles to pick up the load I was supposed to run to Indiana today, and I arrived and there were 2 boxes and neither one of them would fit. Neither one of them cut in half would have fit in the van. It wasn't even close. And they're looking at me like this is my fault. And I go, if they just tell me where to go, I don't have the inside outs. And I did notice on my little app, it said 2 pallets, 1,200 pounds a piece, but it didn't say the sizes. And that's a learning thing right there. Because dispatch does have your dimensions and your payload capacity. So they should know that, but it happened and nothing we can do about it. I talked earlier today about my rather disastrous vacation plan that fell apart. Compliments of United Airlines. So while I was sitting there, I typed a nice long letter to them in the complaint department to explain what had happened and how my faith in the airline is now borderline of non-existent, since they seem to be overloaded with customer service reps that don't have a clue what's going on around them. You occasionally meet a clown in the ointment, but when you run into a series of idiots in a row and none of them know what's going on, there's a problem. Major problem. So I'll wait a while and see how that turns out in the end. I don't know what they do. Had $600 invested in her plane ticket, and it was like, oh, this is non-refundable. Well, I'm sorry, but you kept my wife spun around all over the airport, wouldn't let her go on her plane when she got there. They literally closed the door. She walked up and they said, oh, no, we don't open doors once they're closed. Well, maybe your personnel shouldn't spin my wife all around the airport. Absolutely frustrating day. Enjoyed hanging out with my cousin and his family, but I really wanted my wife to be there. That was kind of like the point of that. But we'll deal with it. Anybody got anything going on this afternoon? We're heading westbound on Highway 30. Next turn is Interstate 75, heading towards Dayton, Ohio. Hoping this route keeps me away from all the traffic. Hoping, because it's kind of nice doing this. No complaints. I went for this pickup, and it turns out they close at 4 o'clock, and I come rolling in there at about 4:01, and everybody's leaving, getting in their cars and driving off. And I go to the shipping department, ring the bell, and nobody responds, which is never a good sign. So I ran around to the front, went in the main office, and there was a girl sitting there, and she said, "Okay, let me call the guy. He's unloading another vehicle across the street." So she made the call, and I went back outside, and within 60 seconds, she walked out of the building, got in her car, and drove off. So that's how close that was. So we're back out here west on 30. Got the cruise set on 62. Reloaded my water bottle, 21.7 miles per gallon. Got some bad winds. I got a chance to clean the van. Scrubbed it down. It hasn't been washed in a while. And I'm going to need something a little more serious to get the bugs off the front. They're like, part of the paint job. And here we go, westbound 30 in the middle of Ohio. If anybody's tuning in from overseas or don't recognize the area, not an interstate, just a highway. Watching a video the other day on the U of Tube, and it was talking about aircraft with the highest kill ratio, air-to-air combat ratio. And it went down the list, and World War II is going to be the mainstay. And it eventually got to number one slot was a horrible little plane that we never used called the Brewster Buffalo. It was a late 1930s design that was kind of a dog, and we ended up selling or giving them to Finland. And Finland tore up the Soviets when they invaded in 38, 39. Absolutely tore them up. But this horrible little plane, I don't know how they did it unless their pilots were just awesomely skilled, and the Soviet pilots couldn't spell airplane, but they got to the top one, and that's an airplane that literally was so bad the U.S. military didn't touch it. And we had plenty of aircraft that were substandard early in the war, and the fact that that one was so substandard it was never used, and yet it had this insanely high kill ratio was a little shocking. But the Finland used them, had a field day, and I went, "You guys go for it, whatever works." Ooh. So for anybody tuning in, just now, I had a pickup today, supposedly at 1 o'clock. And I got there and I couldn't pick it up because they wouldn't. There's two packages. Neither one of them would fit in my van. Even forget two of them. One of them wouldn't fit either one. They were different sizes, still way too big for this. So I waited around and got this load about 60 miles north. We're right as they were closing. I picked it up. So now we're boogieing. This Saturday, my cousin and I guess she's my cousin-in-law, and some of her friends went to Lake Chautauqua, New York, Western New York. And my cousin owns what they call a pontoon boat, and what it is called a party barge. You can load bodies on it and go on the water. It's not like a jet ski thing, but it can carry a lot of people, a lot of flat surfaces. Uh, they have this thing on their lake. They advertise it to people who join their website. It's called H2O. On the north side of the lake, there's a sandbar that goes out about 200 feet in nutsack deep water for me. And they set up a stage and they run power, and the guy DJs and plays music. Everybody pulls up in their boats and anchors off, and then stands around and acts stupid, dances and drinks, and you're kind of like waist deep water, walking around your bare feet on the sand. You can feel it. And there were, I don't know, 60 boats there, maybe 300 some odd people. And the music varied. You could actually, he had a advertising the side of the stage and had an email or a web or something you could text in requests and he would play whatever music you were asking about. And the guy would crank it up. It was kind of fun, and I enjoyed the fact that you could put that many people in one place, and nobody got mad at anybody. Nobody got in arguments. Nobody said, "Stop looking at my wife." Nobody tried to drown out the DJ with their stereo system. Everybody just got along, and people walked around and floated by in their inner tubes, and it was nice to be around a bunch of people who were just enjoying the sun and the water and the music. And it was an enjoyable experience. And we cooked them burgers while we were standing there, a little barbecue pit he had on the bow. And, my cousin-in-law, she was over jumping up and down and acting like an idiot, which was fun to watch. And she got schnookered to the point that she fell in the water and her drink went underwater, and she came back up and she was about to take a swig out of it. They're like, "Yeah, that's not going to work." Yeah, it's probably not going to work very well. Okay. Everybody was having fun. That was a good time. I really wanted my wife to be there, but it didn't work out. And then I got to play farmer a little bit. We have vineyards. Family farm consists of two areas full of vineyards. The posts that hold the vines up, they're wood, and they last a certain period of time, and then they rot, they break, they can get knocked over by something, or a storm can hit them, and the winds can hit them wrong. And as they get old, they eventually snap, and you got to replace these wooden poles that are pretty heavy duty. And he has, I don't even know what he called it, a pole thumper. It's a big hydraulic arm up in the air, and you go drive down the row and line up the new wooden pole to put in the ground and just bang the snot out of it. The hydraulics slam it into the ground and put the wire on top and attach it, and you're back in business. So we spent some time driving around rewiring some of this stuff. Kind of learned how it's done because I've never seen that kind of work done before. State wildlife officer. Huh, game warden? Right there in that truck? But I actually enjoyed walking around the vineyards. So they sprayed it, bug spray or whatever, a month ago. So it's rained a few times. So it's almost a harvest time. They're going to be pulling the grapes next month. And vineyards have a smell. It's kind of like an old barn has a smell. Vineyards do too. And I enjoyed walking around, just kind of absorbing that scent. That a world where everybody sits around behind a desk and pushes living, it's kind of nice to go out and do something that requires manual labor. And rewiring vineyard lines, cut the wire, crimping the hook connections and all that stuff. It's kind of, I don't know, it makes you feel good. You're out in the weather. I had my sunglasses on, and I wear a booty hat so you're not getting burned, being outdoors. Temperature was perfect, broken clouds, scattered really. I don't know, I enjoyed doing that. I could be convinced to go do that again. With very little effort. My cousin, he took over my grandparents' house, put a beautiful patio on the back, and there's probably some videos of it. Beautiful patio looking north towards Lake Erie. And Route 20 is right there. Cars go by, and you watch them. And about every third car honks when they go by. Because apparently my cousin knows everybody. And when they see somebody on the porch, they tap the horn. And his porch is huge, fancy rock with a rock wall with accent lights. So just really nice setup. Very comfortable, very calming sitting out there. I really enjoyed that. I get up super early in the morning and sit out there, and while the sun comes up, and then I would go out there at night and let the sun disappear and get dark. I enjoyed that. So now I'm maneuvering to get my wife back up there in late November. It's not going to have the weather conditions that we have now, obviously, but I think it's going to give her a chance to go hunting because they need people to go hunting up there. So we'll see what happens. So we are currently expediting. This is the poor man's truck driving. Cheaper to get into, easier, less regulations, less stress. Pretty much a good way all around to do the kind of driving you do out here, even though it's not in a big truck. Two. Oh, and while we were doing the fixing the posts, the vineyard posts, the cousin drove off in the tractor. My nephew was driving. He called it a gator, and it's one of those farm vehicles like a Kawasaki Mule, but it's the John Deere version. And we have to drive, I don't know, a third of a mile down Route 20 to turn off and go do the farm work. And those things are 600cc four-wheel drive. It's kind of a neat little vehicle for working. And we're following the tractor going about 20 miles an hour, and I'm thinking, okay, this thing might do 30. We got out in the open, and he wound that thing up to 50 miles an hour. I had no idea that little top-heavy, stubby little John Deere Gator could do 50 miles an hour, which seems insanely fast when you're in it. I think 30 would be adequate. At least those clouds look awesome. Choo-choo-choo. For that shot, you're crazy. Whoa, that's a good color. Choo-choo-choo-choo. Choo-choo-choo-choo. Sky looks awesome. I got nobody. 8 o'clock. So 3 hours from here is I drop. Hey. This is westbound on highway, not interstate, Highway 30, Central Ohio, going towards central Indiana. As long as the traffic stays like this, I'll be happy. And it's 73 degrees. It'll probably cool off here a little, but I don't have to run my air conditioner today, which is a plus because I don't have to hook the whole thing up. What? See here. There's a guy who flew an SR-71, which is a high-flying spy aircraft reconnaissance. They used the SR-71 from 1964 until 91 when satellites took over the mission of overhead, taking pictures and stuff. They retired and they've come back in service a couple of times for various missions, but Generally speaking, the SR-71 is gone from being used. And it's an aircraft that cruises at 90,000 feet. It basically flies at Mach 3. So it's above what any fighter plane can do, and it's higher than most missiles can go. And the missiles that can go up there can't fly that fast. So if you fly it over enemy territory, there's not a whole lot the enemy can do. They've tried. They've been shot at a million times, but the point is, you just don't have anything that can go that far, that high, or that fast. And there was a guy in the Air Force in 1980 or 81, did a training flight with a new pilot, a new crew member on board. And they took off, I think he set out of Kansas. And the plane is weird. It leaks fuel on the ground. It literally pees fuel on the ground because when it gets to altitude and it gets hot, it seals the whole aircraft, kind of bakes and seals. So it's this weird thing where you're literally drizzling fuel. They would take off, fly up, hit the tanker, and then from there they climb up to 90,000 feet and set the cruise. And they're doing a route down south into Texas. They go west over the coast of California, and then they go up the coast of Washington, come back to Washington. Remember, they're going 2,000 miles an hour. And, they go back to Kansas City, I think it was, and land. It only takes them a couple hours to do it. It's just they're going that fast. And airspace is broken into different categories. Class G being, it's rare, but Class G is the free for all. Well, there are no rules. And for commercial aviation, 60,000 feet is the top of Class A airspace. Above that's Class G because exceptions, nobody's flying above 60,000 feet. It's not the area. Well, the SR happens to be one of the very few aircraft that goes up there. So when they're flying, they don't have to talk to air traffic control because they're not in their airspace. They can see them. They've got a transponder that's advertising their presence, but they can just boogie along and do whatever they want. Because they're flying over the airspace. And back in the early 80s, they didn't have GPS. That was still futuristic. So you had other kinds of navigation equipment on board. And the difference between airspeed and ground speed, airspeed is what it says on your indicator. And that's registered by a little thing called the pitot tube, which looks like a finger sticking off your wing or your nose, depending on the airframe. And it air's entering that, spinning a little gyro or a little pressure thing, and it says this is how fast you're going through the air mass. The ground speed is your airspeed plus or minus how fast the wind is going in the area of wind you are currently in right now. So you can be flying a little plane and it can say you're going 150 miles an hour and your ground speed might be 150 because the wind you're in is moving the same direction you're going at 20 miles an hour. Or you can show 150 miles an hour and you can only be going 110 because the air mass you're in is up there is going 40 miles an hour away from behind you by the opposite direction. So a lot of times people will call back then, would call flight service and say, hey, can you, based on your radar, what's my ground speed? Do a speed check so they know either to climb or descend to find more favorable winds. And they would sometimes give you that. And these guys are flying along in this SR-71 up at altitude, and they're listening to flight service. And some guy in a little single-engine Cessna comes on and says, hey, can I get a speed check? And they go, yeah, we got you. Your ground speed's 92 knots. And they're like, cool, that's cool. All right, thanks. And, well, know what else is called. There's something to do. And all of a sudden, some other guy jumps on there and he does the same thing. I have a speed check twin engine plane. And he goes back, oh, we got you, 194 or something. And he's like, look how fast I'm going. And then a military jet comes in there and says, yeah, Navy, 123, what's my speed? Oh, we got you at 518. He's like, look at me. I'm, Mr. Speed Demon. And then the guy on board the SR-71 goes, yeah, control Aspen 30. Can I get a speed check? It says, yeah, we got you at 1,997. He goes, oh, okay. All of a sudden, that speed check game ended abruptly. Nobody else wanted to open their mouths because they don't even know what they're dealing with at this point. Because that is scratching Mach 3. The story he tells is much longer, but that was the gist of it. We are coming up behind some flashing lights. Oh, we had a friend of the family, Russ Barter, in Colorado. He was a Western Airlines pilot when I was a kid. He would bribe me with getting good grades to take me on airplane rides. It worked. And he had a 1950s model Piper Cub in his bar. He would take me up and fly around. And if you want to fly for the mere joy of flying, go in a Piper Cub. Your door has a hinge on the top and a hinge on the bottom, and you can literally open the door in the middle and fold the top half up and the bottom half down, and you can fly around with your doors open. You can put your foot out on the support struts and just piddle along at 75 miles an hour, take off and land basically anywhere. It just mows you along and enjoy the outdoors. I mean, the ultimate experience of aviation is gained by flying around in a Piper Cub. So if you ever get the chance, go for a ride in one of those. And in Colorado, it is bone dry, the environment. When you have no humidity in the air, your visibility can be really, really long. We took off in the northern part of the state, climbed up, I don't know, 700 feet, and we could see mountain peaks 300 miles away very clearly in the distance. We were out flying around with this little plane once, and it didn't even have a radio in it. You come up to a little airport, you flip on your landing light, do a couple of violent turns, and look around and go, "We're the only people. Let's land." It's that simple. But we were flying along at about 1,000 feet. These old planes are carbureted. There's like a door on the side of the engine compartment you open and close to let air in, and the spring or the lever or something on that door broke and it slammed shut. The aircraft went to idle, and you can't get it above idle. Just stayed there. Oh, I said, what? He goes, "We're landing." Really? Why? Because I can't make the motor go any faster. Oh, okay. We're on middle of nowhere. There's just a little road. But, for a 13-year-old kid, that's pretty exciting to land a little tiny plane on a dirt road and get out and fix the little flapper on the door. And then he fired it right back up again, and we took off and flying some more. Neat plane. The fuel tanks are tiny, and I think there's a header tank in front of the instrument panel in front of you, real small, but the fuel tanks are in your wings. And instead of a gas gauge, it's got a float bubble. And I remember that looking up, and the fuel quantity is kind of bouncing up and down in that glass bubble. And I say, well, that's about as simplistic as you're ever going to get for landing gear. I mean, for fuel tank quantity. Unfortunately, he got cancer, died. I think he was 55 or 56 years old. So really good guy. Really good guy. It's a shame, though. I really liked him. I was in the 90s. Yeah, you look back when you were a kid, you look at what you did, where you were, and around you who you grew up with, and there were just things going on around you that you just kind of took for granted. You didn't really think anything of it. And you look back and you go, wow, that was awesome. I was very fortunate to have experienced that. But at the time, it just seems normal. It's like when you're healthy, you don't think about being healthy. When you're sick, you think about it. But when you're healthy, you don't really lose sleep over being healthy. You just kind of take it for granted. We all do. Go, dude, go faster. Go faster. So I had a fun childhood. I didn't even realize it was a fun childhood until I got older. Oh, turn off coming up. Well, they did a car wash, a little scrubby dubby car wash. It's made the van, generally speaking, look better, except the front end. Bugs, I think I need something a little more powerful to get the bugs off of this thing. Usually a good rainstorm is enough. Oh, let's see. This is Highway 30 West in central Ohio, driving towards the sun. Just the clouds are blocking it, which makes it look kind of cool. We're getting ready to make a turn up here, which is going to go. We're going west, and it's gonna circle us around a little bit, hit us on 75 southwest way. And 75 is an interstate. So the big ones. And we are driving directly into a headwind according to that pond. So we're getting 21.6 miles per gallon. And I have a 2,000-pound payload in here, a single pallet, 1 ton of whatever it is in that 1 ton. Car parts or something. He said it was car parts. I don't know what they are specifically, but it's something football it's saying. It says freight all kinds. Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. Okay. I didn't do that, did I? Right, I'm gonna have to bail here.